Dear and respected friend, thank you so much for your kind participation in today's Vishwaneedam Center for Asian Blossoming Initiatives, Swadhyasaya Chakra Circle for Co-Learning and Mutual Studies Weekly Dialogue. Today, in our Sunday Dialogue, we are going to talk about management education. So the theme of today's discussion is New Horizons of Creative Management Education, Walking and Mediating with Chitranjan Das, and creating new innovative practices and thinking. It gives me a great pleasure and indeed an honor to have with us Professor Subash Sharma ji, Dean, Indus Business Academy. It gives me a great pleasure and indeed an honor to have with us Professor Meera Chakrabarti, Ananta Kumar Giri, Minati Pradhan, Professor Mohanty, and Dr. Gyan Biloi from Australia. So the topic is very, very important. I can remember I was also present in a very important session in Indus Business Academy, Bangalore, where Professor Subhash Sharma discussed about the important and creative ideas of Chanakya and management studies, particularly in the context of India. So, to initiate the discussion, I would like to invite Ananta Kumar Giri, who is also one of the contributors of this book, this very creative project, to share his reflections or give a kind of brief background of the very topic of today's discussion. So, Ananta bhai, over to you.
Thank you, Randhir. Thank you, Subhashi, Meera, Minati, and Gyan, and all friends co-present. Now, we are able to resume our Chitta Centenary Memorial Lecture almost after 1.5 months, almost after 1.5 years. I think one of the last was presented by Meera in December 2021 on the issue of faith. And we are also mobilizing ourselves to come with a book bringing all the lectures together. So we have been communicating with Professor Sharma, and we are very grateful to him for presenting his work in dialogue with the vision and practice of Chitta, who has also thought deeply about education. Now, Chitta, along with his many concerns and sadhana, education and creative literature, he was concerned about institutions. And institutions are deeply significant for nurturing an appropriate way of living. In spirit, in creativity, there is a focus on creativity, and creativity as a dynamics of unbound energy. We need that. For example, the whole idea Prometheus unbound. We know Prometheus was chained, and then how Shelley, the great writer, wrote this book Prometheus Unbound. So creativity is a process of unbinding ourselves. But unbinding does not mean that we can do it without proper institutional frame. So Chitta, as he was interested in creative freedom, in education and society, he was deeply concerned about the challenge of institution and institution building and also leadership. He always used to make a distinction in Odia between Netrutva and Kartrutva. Netrutva means leader and Kartrutva means authority. Now we have seen that in the name of leadership and in the name of authority, what has emerged is a kind of authoritarianism, where authoritarianism is an end in itself. And it is in this context Professor Sharma has been developing a path of a new leadership, and a leadership with a heart, leadership which is in tune with one's soul and with society. So that way, this idea of a different leadership and enlightened leadership is very important for nurturing and creating institution so that we can pursue our path of creative freedom. So with this, it's a joy to invite Professor Sharma. And in terms of proceedings for the day, if it is all right, we will listen to, now it is 4:15 p.m. So we'll listen to Professor Sharma for half an hour, and then we will have a 15-minute discussion. We'll try to, close by 5 p.m. So thank you so much, Professor Sharma.
Thank you, Ananta, and dear friends. So today's theme is New Horizons of Creative Management Education, Walking and Meditating with Chittaranjan Das and Cultivating New Innovative Practices and Thinking. So when we look at Chittaranjan Das, he is a creative thinker and creative writer, well known for his writings spreading across several disciplines such as society, politics, culture, and history. Ideal life is not just a romantic utopia for, for Chittranjan, but the design of an ideal relationship of dignity which one continuously seeks to realize in the life of the self, other, culture, and society. So, if we look at the key ideas here, the ideal relationship of dignity and seeking to realize in the life of the self, other, culture, and society. So, this was the broad perspective of Chittaranjan Das's philosophy of life. Now, I will share with you some creative institution building in management education, and I will share with you the three experiments in creative institution building with which I was involved from creations from Shunya stage, starting stage. So first is the Indian Institute of Plantation Management at Bangalore. Second is Women's Institute for Development Oriented Management, Wisdom at Banastali Vidyapit, Banastali, Rajasthan. And third is the Indus Business Academy, IBA, Bangalore, where right now I am there. So the Indian Institute of Plantation Management, 1993 it was established. In 1991, Ministry of Commerce approved the Institute of Rural Management, IRMA, for a project report for a new institution for the plantation sector. I was working as a faculty member at IRMA at that point in time, and so I was assigned the task of preparation of this report. And then the report which I prepared was accepted by the minister, by the ministry, and the Indian Institute of Plantation Management was established in 1993 at Bangalore. It was sponsored by Tea Board, Coffee Board, Rubber Board, Spices Board, Indian Tea Association, and Upasi from Kunur, United Planters Association of South India. Now, we came out with this idea of what we call the best plantation managers. So, the best manager model was adopted as a basis for curriculum design. So, best In BEST model, B stands for behavioral dimension. That means how do we manage the labor, particularly plantation industry is a labor intensive industry, and therefore the plantation manager has to manage the labor very efficiently and effectively. E is for the economic dimension, so that deals with your cost of production of your tea, coffee, rubber, or spices, or any other crop. S is the strategic dimension, that is looking at the changes in the market, how market is changing over a period of time, how much is the export, because these plantation crops, particularly tea and coffee, are export oriented crops, and T is the technical dimension. So this was the basis of the design of the curriculum at the institution. And then in the initial stages, we also adopted the reach out model. The reach out model means the guru is going to Shishya. In traditional model, Shishya is coming to the guru. So as a result of that, we used to go to Assam and to different locations wherever plantations are there, Jorhat, Dibrugarh, etc., Guwahati and other places, and conduct the uh, training programs for the plantations managers on the spot. So this gave us good insight into the field conditions, and as a result, we developed the the teaching material based on those experiences, and this material was later on became the basis for launching the postgraduate program in agribusiness and plantation management. So it's a 2-year program. The current status of institute today, institute is well known for its PG program and its research related to agribusiness and plantation management. So this was the first experience. You can go to the Google and visit their website and see what are the other activities of the institution. And they also have a tea tasting training program, which is very popular, and other research activities can be seen. Its alumni are now well placed. So this is the first experiment. Second experiment is Women's Institute for Development Oriented Management Wisdom at Banastali Vidyapit, Banastali, Rajasthan in 1996. So in 1996 March, um, I was invited. Actually, it was basically because of Mr. R.N. Haldipur, who was an ex-IAS officer and Lieutenant Governor of Pondicherry, and he was known. He was also the Diwan of Sikkim in the early 1950s, and during his Sikkim assignment, he came in touch with Vidyapit because a lot of students were coming from the northeast, and that is how he was well known to Vidyapit, and he was my director at the Institute of Rural Management. And when the secretary of the Vidyapit um, visited Bangalore in 1996, he invited me for an interactive session discussion with them. And then on that basis, a workshop was held at Banastali, and I also visited there. And then on that discussion basis, a project report was prepared, and I was involved in preparation of the project report. The foundation equation for wisdom was W is equal to R plus I. Wisdom is reason plus intuition. So in this model, the reason represents the left brain approach and intuition represents the right brain approach. So the curriculum was designed on the basis of integration of the left brain and right brain approaches. And so courses on the human quality development and creativity were introduced. Traditionally, the MBA model was based basically on rationality model, that means the reason or R orientation model. And though now the institutions have also introduced the I dimension, and so today the most of the management institutions are indirectly or directly using this equation. And in 1996, my book came, Western Windows, Eastern Door, and that also became the basis for the curriculum design at Wisdom. This book basically identifies two approaches to knowledge creation and new ideas generation, the Windows model and the Doors model. Windows model is based on looking at reality outside and then describing the laws of nature, and that is a basis of the science. And it so happened that this model developed in Europe, and that is why the phrase Western Windows. And the intuition model, I model, is the doors model. So you enter the door and experience what is happening inside, and then you go and look at the reality. And that is the traditionally the Eastern approach, and particularly in India, around 3,000 years, 1,000 to 4,000 years back. And as a result of that, the ideas like yoga, meditation, spirituality emerged. And today, those ideas have gained the global acceptance. So, in the 21st century, we need to create a new house of knowledge in which, with both approaches, the windows and the doors approaches. And that is what we experimented at Wisdom. Now, there are five foundational principles of wisdom. Wisdom acts as a strategic think ad forum for women issues in management of society, organizations, and individuals. Wisdom facilitates creation of future enlightened leadership among women. Ananta mentioned about the idea of enlightened leadership. So, at Wisdom, we are trying to achieve that. Wisdom trains the young minds for managerial responsibilities and entrepreneurial ventures. Wisdom conducts action based research, and wisdom promotes intellectual self reliance. And the broad objectives of the Institute, in consonance with its foundational principles, following are the broad objectives of the Institute: to train women for managerial positions, to train women in entrepreneurial tasks of setting up industry, organizations, and institutions, to undertake research and consultancy if they view to augment knowledge base, keeping in view the specific requirement of women's issues and cultural moorings. Now, current status: Wisdom is a leading institute with its alumni working in different sections of Indian society and the corporate world. Many alumni are working abroad and also working in academic field. So this was the second experiment of creation from Shunya, creation of a unique institution known as Wisdom. Third experiment is Indus Business Academy at Bangalore, 2001. So IBA was conceptualized in a brainstorming session held in November 2000 at Bangalore. In this, our founding chairman, late Shri PML Jain, articulated vision of IBA in terms of wealth creation through technology and management. He was an IIT Kanpur graduate, so he brought in the idea of technology and management and wealth creation for the nation and for the society, for the organization, and for the family. And I was also present in the brainstorming session, and so that is how the beginning started. The chairman's vision was translated in three foundational principles of IBA. The first, first being creative, enlightened, and organic leaders for future, or what we call CU leaders. Second is the success mantra of IBA: S is equal to I into B into A. I for inspiration, B for breakthrough, A for achievement. So students have to be inspired. They should achieve a breakthrough idea or an innovative idea, and they should be achievement oriented. Third is the 3D model of learning. So the 3D model of learning is based on three steps of discussion, dialogue, and discourse. If you visit IBA, and I think many of you have visited IBA physically, there are some cultural symbols. First is the 3D center. So this is a space for students to have group discussion, case discussions, and group assignments. And this is available to students up to 12 o'clock in the night. Second is the Omega Circle. Omega Circle is almost in the center of the campus, and it's like the chakra in IBA in the Indian flag. The lines on the circle represents the various dialectical positions, and so any issue or any problem has multiple perspectives. So we have to look at it from so many different dialectical angles, and this center of the just 1 minute, some visitor has come.
Meanwhile, any of our respected friend
Okay,
wants.
so
Yes.
so I was on the Omega Circle. So Omega Circle is a very powerful symbol of spiritual synergy at the campus. Third is the steps. There are many steps. As you enter the campus, you go towards the classrooms. So we call them knowledge steps. And after 2 years, the students graduate, they go up these steps to go out. So then we call them corporate steps. So for the success, they have to follow the step-by-step approach. And we also have a step-by-step song, which is the song of the campus, IBA, which is also available on the YouTube. So you can go to the YouTube and put step by step and my name, Dr. Subash Sharma. So you can listen to the song. The song has four key symbols, key ideas. First is going to the mountain. So if you are going to the mountain, then you go step by step. Uh, Second is the going to the moon. Moon is a metaphor of creativity and innovation. So you must achieve some creativity and think of innovation. And third is the idea of taking a quantum jump, so like kangaroo jump. So all great leaders have taken quantum jumps in their life, whether it is Gandhi or Subhash Bose or the corporate world, J.R.D. Tata, Narayana Murthy, Azim Premji, all these they have taken quantum jumps in their life. And the fourth is the idea of continue your journey, Chareveti, as Buddha will say. Uh, do not remain satisfied with one success, but go for another success. So today IBA is well known for its as an institution of excellence, and it has won many awards, including Innovative Institution Award from AIMS, Association of Indian Management Schools, in 2015. Its alumni are in senior management positions in corporate worlds, and many have become entrepreneurs. Its creative ideas and research is very well cited in academic literature. And so, if we have to take an evolutionary perspective of creative institution building, So at the Indian Institute of Plantation Management, we experimented with the best manager model. At Wisdom, we experimented with Wisdom equation, W is equal to R plus I. And at IBA, the CEO leader, creative, enlightened, and organic leader. Now in future, we can look at the idea of corporate rishi model of leadership. Uh, Corporate rishi is one who can re-see the things. Rishi, the new interpretation of rishi is the one who can re-see the things in new ways. Even our ancient rishis were seeing and re-seeing the things in new ways and providing us new insights and new mantras. So I think that is the future direction in which we need to move. So with this, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much for your patient listening. And now we can move towards further discussion.
So thank you so much, Subhashji. So now let us join in the discussion, please.
Any comments, observations?
Yes. So maybe Mira, you would like to start?
Thank you, Sharmaji. But I'd like to ask you and Ananta also that do you think both of you that the age of digitalization is eclipsing the guiding spirit of leadership and is pushing the leaders to get into entanglement of ethics and opacity? Uh, I would also like to know how this is actually. How would you like to relate this, whatever is Sharma is saying, to Chittaranjan Das's views? Because his perspective on education was so different and creative. And so, how would you like to relate this to the leadership factor?
Yeah, in the digital era, the leaders have to be enlightened, they have to be socially conscious and creative. So, and that is the idea in these three models which I presented. The idea of creativity and bringing the creativity to the field of management education. Okay, so that is the basic approach, and training the enlightened leadership, not only for the male sections of the society, but also the female section of the women sections of the society. And I'm happy that even at IPA, almost 45% of students are now the female students. And at Wisdom, of course, all students are female students. And they are all now working in very senior positions and contributing and providing a new leadership.
Thank
Ananta,
you.
would you like to add? And
Yes.
of course, Chitranjan Das
Ananta.
was known for his creativity, and in these models also we have tried to introduce the creativity and develop the creative side of the leaders, future leaders.
Thank you. I would come towards the end. Now, Minati, please.
Hello, am I audible? So that time I could not greet anyone, so namaste everyone. Sorry, Raman,
Mhm.
Subhai. So it was, for me, I am privileged enough to listen these things, multiple times. So I exactly what Mirama was asking, I had that query in my mind, how you can relate this one to that Chittaranjan Das vision. That especially if you sir can explain little bit on the best managerial model, like all this behavioral dimension, economic, strategic, and technical dimension, little bit, it would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Minati.
It's a pleasure.
Subhashji would think about it in a minute. And now we have Saroj Babu present. No, Saroj Babu is there.
Saroj Babu has joined.
And from Facebook, because this thing is
Oh,
not that seen. And then you can
okay,
ask him. Yeah, he is there. I'll just 1 minute.
sure.
Namaste, Subhash and everyone. I would like to just thank Subhash for this enlightening session, and his contribution towards management, Indian management, has been phenomenal. And his under his leadership, these institutes have grown in leaps and bounds. So there is no doubt about it. So I would like just to thank him for the speech. That's all.
Friends would like to ask a question, please. Randhir.
Yes, it was a very, very enriching session. And I'm also a bit curious about, how we can link with the idea of management with a very creative idea of Chitta Bhai. And I think in generally, when we see the a kind of perspective of education, we generally miss as the understanding of so far as the understanding of Krishnamurti and for that matter Chitta Bhai. The managerial tendency is very, very missing part, and that is very important for also because corporate ethics is something which is a very very competitive oriented, and which is very competition oriented, and it is not free from any sort of what we call in Gandhian sense aparigraha. So how we can think about managerial studies because generally if we see the very curriculum or pedagogy of management studies, it is very much emphasis on there is very much emphasis on computer statics or organized behavior and also communication. So and I also teach in a university where I sometimes interact with management student. They are very much career oriented, so they do not understand what is the essence of Tagore's vision so far as the understanding of Indian society is concerned. So, of course, people are talking about social corporate responsibility now, thinking about development without the quest of environmental consciousness is a kind of dangerous thing. It is now being discussed, but of course, the kind of pedagogy they with they are trained on, it's very, very measurable. And the problem with this management studies, what I have understood, because I'm not a management student, but just I teach management student for a course called human values. But I found like generally their orientation are very much to to maximize the profit, to maximize the utilitarian spirit, to maximize the salary and maximize the benefit of labor. So they generally miss the environmental consciousness. They generally ignore the environment issues. So, how do we, cultivate a kind of new ethics of management studies? So that is my important question. And if we can, what are the lessons that we can draw from Chitta Bhai, who cultivated critical and creative school? And now we can see his conception of schooling is very much marginalized in Orissa and also. So, so how do we, you know, think about education which has uh, sustainable value in that sense? Yes.
Thank you, Randhir. It seems Professor Sharma, there might be some technical problem, but just to continue this, one thing about management and how management is so central to any space of creativity. Now, what has happened is that all these creative efforts are going on, but when we come to the management dimension, the management is still imprisoned in a hierarchical authoritarian way. And that is a profound challenge. For example, there is the creativity wing, and when you come to office and accounting, it is always full of terror and fear and unnecessary creation of problems, the whole bureaucratic imprisonment. So therefore, bringing creativity to management is deeply significant. Managing creative process, and here Chittavai himself, for example, he was the principal or the leader of the school, and then he was the director of. So though he was not totally involved in the managing process, but his way was, he was telling me that we would have to arrive at a decision, and in arriving at the decision, let us have the maximum discussion, whatever. But once we take a decision, we all have to follow that. If, for example, this is one of his, if you can say, managerial principle. The second thing is that he was always emphasizing about consciousness. And there has been a field of management by consciousness. And people working with management from Sri Aurobindo stream has developed that. That also resonates with the work of Subash. Management by consciousness. The third thing is about ethics is that, yes, ethics is very important, but Chittabai was very critical of a very naive approach to ethics. And that naive approach to ethics means that ethics as social ethics. And so that critical approach to naive approach to ethics, that ethics is not just following rules and regulation, but going to the depth dimension of it, the heart dimension of it, the quality of consciousness that we have while following ethics. We might follow a rule, but in our mind we are thinking of something else. Therefore, just rule following is not enough. And he was interested in both ethics and aesthetics. So that way, and also ethics, aesthetics, and poetry. How can we have a poetics of ethics in that sense? In the way Martha Nussbaum, the great political philosopher, has talked about poetic justice. So therefore, that way Subhash's work on poetry and management can be brought into managerial ethics in a sense of, it is not, management ethics is not just following the rules of corporation. For example, greed. Now, greed is not illegal. You make profit, it is not illegal. but just legality or illegality is not enough. So these are some of the linking thoughts, and now we look forward to listening to Subhashji on these themes, please.
I will disagree with Ananta. I will have to add something to your thing later on.
Yes, Subhashji.
Yeah, I agree with Ananta. Ethics is not a matter of just rules, following the rules and regulations, but it has a moral dimension to it. So it is much more than that. And it also has the self realization dimension and aesthetics dimension. So if you go to a corporate office, do you see some aesthetics out there, or you do not see any aesthetics? So you may be a manager, but a manager without aesthetics, or a manager with aesthetics. So enlightened manager will have not only ethics in him, but or her, or but also the aesthetics dimension also. And that is what we tried to experiment, particularly at Wisdom at IBA, to introduce the notion of aesthetics. If you visit the campus of Vanastali Vidyapit and also IBA, you can feel the aesthetics dimension in its campus building and campus, the way the campus is designed. Any other comments or observations from any other members of the audience?
Yeah, I was trying to tell on Ananta's this thing rejoinder that Chitta had a kind of the political democratization of the ideas, not just consent to when I read him, not just coming to consensus, not just saying okay, he might have been slightly involved in the managerial, but his basic perspective of humanitarian ideals, which we do not find with the corporate leaders. And that is painful. And another thing is that, as Randhir mentioned, this marginalization of the schools that he created was very sad affair, because even in Amartya Sen's reviews, it say what you need is basic education, elementary medical facilities, availability of resources such as land, etc., which create an appropriate public policies, which is so near to what Chittabai is saying. And these have to be included. And everybody knows that ethics, not that it is not just the rules. I mean, ethics, as he is pointing out, Sharma, is moral values. So these are the things which he stood for. These are the things which he represented. These are the things which he tried to disseminate. And that has to be reflected in the leadership, which is possible, but that is not made, not emphasized, because as Randhir was also pointing out, that it is maximizing your salaries, maximizing your material gains, which not, certainly was Chittavai not was saying. So I think this has to be included when you perceive aesthetics, of course, no doubt, but when you perceive ethics and aesthetics, I think these values of Chittabai must reflect on the leadership qualities. This is what I just want to add, Ananta. Thank you, Randhir. Thank you, Ananta.
So maybe we offer vote of thanks, Minati Pradhan.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on behalf of Vishwaneedam Center and Swadhyay Swachakra, I, Minati Pradhan, would like to thank our today's chief speaker, Professor Subash Sharmaji, for as always his very insightful presentation. Thank you, sir. It is a pleasure really to listen to you every time. and learn from you. So I would also like to thank Professor Meera Chakravarti for being present with us and giving her valuable inputs to our discussion. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I don't see who else is there, like Professor Ganluiji or anybody else. So, but I would like to thank all our Facebook platform user and this StreamYard platform user to being present with us and learning. So, pardon me if I forgotten anybody.